And our thanks to David Mattingly for that. Family members tell CNN that the elder brother, Tamerlan Tsarnaev, was becoming increasingly radicalized in his devotion to Islam. And he may have been influenced, they say, by a friend. The surviving brother has told investigators that the two acted alone with no outside assistance or influence from foreign groups. Joining us now from Washington is former CIA director and chairman of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, Ambassador R. James Woolsey. Ambassador, thank you so much for being with us this morning. I really appreciate it.
Good to be with you.
One of the things we are hearing that the younger brother, Jahar Tsarnaev, is telling investigators, we're not sure whether we should believe him or not, but what he is saying is that the brothers became self-radicalized here in the United States by watching online videos. Does that seem believable to you, sir?
Yes, largely. I mean, this seemed to be what happened to Major Hassan, who killed the 13 of his fellow soldiers down at Fort Hood a couple of 3 years ago. This seemed to be what happened to the underwear bomber, who was only caught by alert passengers and crew on an aircraft after his father had gone to the U.S. State Department and said, my son is extremely radical, watch him. We don't look very good here in terms of one part of the U.S. government talking to another. The people who look the best in the last few days are the Mounties in Canada. They kept track of these two guys for 2 years and were able to arrest them before they blew up a train between Toronto and New York.
If it is as simple as being radicalized by watching online videos, how do you police that? How do you go about stopping that from taking place in another city in another few months?
Well, I think one has to, when you get something as much as they had in this case, they had the Russians come to them with information about him. What they did was conduct an interview and ask him if he was a terrorist, and he said no, and they said, well, okay, and then they closed the case. But if they'd stayed with it, they might have seen that he had bought these pyrotechnics, this black powder in the fireworks that he apparently used in the bombs. They might have seen his something about what he was doing on the web, what he was watching. They would have known about his trip to Russia. But the Department of Homeland Security apparently didn't talk to the FBI and the CIA, and the FBI never got a Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act warrant, which seemed to me would be one possibility. This is the case of these government agencies not working together and not even communicating with one another.
So we're so many years after September 11th now, when there was so much concern about agencies communicating with each other, and now yet again we are hearing about possible communication problems. What does that say to you?
Well, there was a directive from the Justice Department back in the Clinton administration that made it hard in some of these cases, even for one part of the FBI to talk to another, much less the CIA and FBI to talk to one another. Some of those things got straightened out after 9/11, and people thought by establishing a director of national intelligence who would oversee all intelligence in the country, a job now held by Jim Clapper, that would solve the problem. But here we have agencies that are not really part of the intelligence community, the FBI partially a little bit sometimes, Department of Homeland Security not, and I don't know, it makes one wish that we could go down to New York and draft Ray Kelly to come run all this operation for us in Washington, because he's doing a terrific job in New York.
We'll take that as a nomination, sir. James Woolsey, thank you so much for being with us, Ambassador. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Good to be with you.